For
Good
some
evening, everyone, and
reason,
thank you so much for joining us for tonight's World AIDS Day poetry reading here at the Wadsworth Atheneum Museum of Art. My name is Adam Lenz, and I'm the new Public Engagement and Programs Manager here at the museum. We're very honored tonight to be joined by three Connecticut-based poets and helping us reflect on World AIDS Day. Frederick-Douglass Knowles, Rhonda Ward, and Summer Tate. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Thank you.
It's impossible to think about art over the last 4 decades without considering the immeasurable impact that HIV and AIDS have had on creative communities around the world. The World Health Organization estimates that more than 36 million people have died from complications with AIDS, and an equal number are facing the virus every day around the world, including many people right here in our Hartford community, as well as our Connecticut community. The Wadsworth has a long history of working with artists who have been directly impacted by the AIDS epidemic, and we are very fortunate to currently have a number of works on display by artists who have been directly impacted by the AIDS epidemic. The first is Untitled Perfect Lovers by HIV/AIDS activist and artist Felix Gonzalez-Torres, which is on display just off of Gray Court. And the second is a painting by Alice Neal of experimental filmmaker Roger Jacoby, which is being featured in a spotlight exhibition, Discovering Rose Freed's Nephew by Alice Neal. Both Gonzalez-Torres's and Jacoby's lives were cut short from complications with AIDS in 1996 and 1985, respectively. We hope that you'll join us at the museum here between now and January 23rd to have an opportunity to view these important works and to reflect on the words and ideas that our guests will be sharing with us this evening. We'd also like to take a moment to thank our contemporary art curator, Patricia Hickson, who helped make the acquisition and special exhibition of Alice Neal's painting of Roger Jacoby possible here at the museum, and also for helping to get Felix's work back up on the wall just in time for World AIDS Day after a loan for an exhibition in Spain earlier this year. Tonight's event is being held in a meeting format to allow for a more personal engagement with our guests. We ask that you keep your cameras on if possible tonight so that we can have more of a community feel. And we also ask that you keep your microphones muted if possible during the presentation. We also are going to hopefully have you be involved in our chat tonight too, sharing memorials, appreciations, and any questions that you may have for our artists. And we'll leave a little time at the end for some community response if you'd like to participate there. I'll also be sharing a few resources tonight in the chat at the beginning and the end of the program, so you can watch for those. And thank you so much again for joining us. Now, will you please join me in welcoming to our virtual stage HIV and AIDS activist and Hartford's inaugural Poet Laureate, Frederick-Douglass Knowles.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you, everybody, for joining us for this monumental annual World AIDS Day event. Thank you, Wadsworth, for putting this on. Thank you for my co-guests, Summer and Rhonda, for riding this wave with me. We're just really going to just share, we're going to just talk about love, light, and laughter, and of course, HIV and AIDS. And I'm going to start off and read and so forth, and then I'll introduce my two guests as well, co-guests. And then we really want to just hear from you guys too, and let's just have a conversation. So I'm going to start and preface by saying that two things. One is that my brother Jamie Forrest Knowles has been living with AIDS, HIV/AIDS for the past 30 years. He's currently living at Trinity Hill Healthcare on Hillside here in Hartford. We're from Norwich, Connecticut originally. And he's been a hero of mine for years. Many times he's been considered down and out, or on his deathbed, and count him out, and he's bounced back now for like 4 times, at least 4 times. So I'm going to share some family stories with him, and then I'm also going to talk about one of the pillars of Hartford that we just recently lost, was Shawn Lang, who I met back in 2007, who was just warrior. I mean, straight warrior. And so my readings are dedicated to those two, and I'll get started so we can just get right into the slip of things. So I grew up in Norwich, Connecticut, right across from the college where I teach at, Three Rivers Community College. And the address of the college is 574 New London Turnpike. And Our address was 575 New London Turnpike. And my grandmother bought a duplex house with a huge backyard. We had 2 pear trees, a grape tree, apple vine, cherry stone tree, vegetable garden, flower garden, and a rose bush. And we would play a game called Kick the Can. She had 2 daughters, and one daughter, my mom had 11 kids, and my aunt had 7. So 18 grandchildren would play this particular game of tag using a can. So this first poem is titled Kick the Can, Summer Nights at 575, of course, dedicated to my brother Jamie. The blaze of an August sun melts into the nocturne. Ripened crickets summon mates to full moon fantasies. Fireflies unveil hidden cracks and shadows of the unknown as a thick coat of blackness entices silhouettes pressed against the kitchen window. When the sternness of mommy's stature submitted to our symphonies of Can We Please, we bolt down the stairs, pile into the front yard, form a circle and commence. 1, 2, 3, not it. Raymond is the first relieved. Round 2, exoneration soothes the involuntary spasm jolting down the backside of my left leg. Rounds 3, 4, 5, and 6, bubblegum in the dish, liberates the twins, while the neighborhood gang, Danny, Elena, Laura Porter, and the Perkins follow suit. Jamie pleads best out of 3. An orange crush plucked from Gammy's refund stash, a heap of would-be nickels, concealed from can-kicking culprits, is placed in front of the porch steps. Tag-alongs are forewarned not to follow as summer night cosmonauts blast off into a pit of blackness. Shrubs posed as double agents prevent sultry air from revealing secrecies as we crept and crawled around backyard corners, lying dormant in thick blades of grass like a creeping lioness stalking her prize. A still figure dangles in the apple tree. Another angles between the pear trees and the path leading down the backside of the far garage. The grapevine swallowed by the abyss is off limits. The can keeper tactically executes his conquest, the wrath of Khan unleashed. Midnight marauders scurry into the open. The twins are the first caught. Tap, tap, tap on the side of the garage. Lisa soon follows. The apple tree's cloak ineffective. 3, 4, 5, and 6 are caught to the rhythm of aluminum clanking against concrete. The welcoming wall at Thames Valley Community College, symmetrically across the street, enables marksmanship. A silver cylinder gleams the humming street lamps. Slowly, I cross the quiet, glued to the fence, rose thorns prickling my clammy flesh. Jamie peers into darkness. I rise, he turns, eyes locked, he squints, focuses, spotted, I dash, flawless strides. His abrupt stumble offers me the jump. I size up the C in the center of the can like a kicker eyeing the snap. 3 seconds left, down by 2. I plant my foot, cock back my right, his outstretched arm inches away, bam! Hollow metal hurls into darkness. The imprisoned scatter into moonbeams. The tatty cylinder repositioned. The can keeper commences. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi. Ready or not, here I come. The next poem I'm going to share, and I'm going to watch my time too, is a poem I dedicated to my siblings. Because when my brother first became sick, actually, you know what? Let's just read that poem instead. We didn't know that he had AIDS. It was HIV positive. And I remember when we first found out, the rest of the family had moved out, and then I was older, he was older, and we were living with my grandmother, and he would sleep all day long, and then he started walking in circles, and it was just like, and then one day he just didn't get out of bed, and we took him to the hospital, and he had full-blown AIDS, and so it was just like, wow. And a lot of things came out after that. And so this poem is titled after him. It's titled Jamie Forrest Knowles. And then I will, okay, share two more after this one. My brother's bright smile never discloses the pain. It never gives way to the plight of AIDS running rampant through his bloodstream. His childlike grin demands immediate gratification, a consequence of dementia eating away his logic. His once masculine jowls have given way to an empty mouth, toughened gums supported by sunken cheekbones, the result of molars, canines, and wisdom extracted. My friend Ed, who shares a similar smile, said, "It helps prevent opportunistic diseases from grabbing hold of the immune system." I dread my family's call, the sound of a little sister's voice uttering "there's no more smile," the granules of an hourglass determined to fulfill their promise. But promises are meant to be broken. My brother lives and fights with every breath. Twice on his deathbed, he fought. When advised to make funeral arrangements, he fought. The pastor summoned and sent home, he fought. He defied death, softly gazed into its face, blew it a compassionate kiss, and walked away. He lives, he breathes, he smiles, he smokes. The only addiction he can't seem to shake. Cigarettes and sex numb the innocence of stolen adolescence. Dime bags and white lines mask the memories of molestation. Reluctantly kissing his cousin, 20 minutes in the closet, open sores from extension cords. Slicing his bound wrists, worn socks absorbing his tears, gagging his cries. Blood-torn tissue smothered in stool made him walk a little bit lighter. Hold his tongue a little less longer. A timid smile deteriorated into a promiscuous leer. No need for a closet. He practiced with pride and without protection. Never no shame in his game, there still isn't. Patrons spanned from tough guy to Tinkerbell, gay to straight, family to friend, and through it all, he never denied the southern stare from the man in the mirror. He never ignored the cold smirk of his inner self, quick to tell you to go yourself if he didn't fancy your type. Hustling the streets, so the streets hustled him, his indecisive choice. We accepted it. Hell, we were doing it. How could we not? The formula was simple. Stay high and drunk and your worries away. And when the sun came up, repeat the past to ease the pain. This one is it's in like 11 parts, so I'm not going to read the entire thing, but I'm going to read a few of them. It's a letter to 575, and it's about my siblings and each one of them. But I definitely want to share my mother and my grandmother and my brother's verse, and then I want to finish with a poem dedicated to Shawn. So this poem is called A Family Letter to 575 New London Turnpike, Norwich, Connecticut, 06360. And like I said, I got 10 siblings and it's 12 parts. I'll read 3. To my mother, half news, who can't keep a story straight. Her name is LaForest, but we call her half news because she couldn't keep stories straight. To my mother, half news, who can't keep a story straight, but earnestly taught 11 lazy children that her humble voice, fresh from shouting hallelujahs at Friday night church service, could flame at the sight of a dirty kitchen she made clear was to be cleaned. 2 hours of praise led the church van to pull alongside the fence. The van door slammed. Her worn heels clattered up the stairs. The doorknob creaked, and she turned the corner with Bible in hand to a sink full of plates and a floor covered in crumbs. She spoke in tongue. The hallelujahs transformed into you damn kids. Her fury released Armageddon, crashing dishes into kitchen crevices, smashing any last dreams of Saturday morning bowls filled with Captain Crunch. To my brother Jamie, Percy, the wear whatever I could get my hands on fashion show, who paraded the streets of Black Rose, color-coded and played in pastels. My shirts and shoes were merely his accessories, seized at leisure. My missing pair of spandex shorts reemerged after the track meet, prancing through the back room strapped to Percy's pelvis. He being older than me, I did the only thing a younger brother could do. I shouted, "Mommy, I'm telling on you." And the last verse from my grandmother. To Slummery, Gammy, the better all ex-bingo bookie who flipped Sunday flapjacks before Reverend Luther's van transported her saints to Sunday school. My late night companion who couldn't tolerate a scared of the boogeyman grandson wetting her bed. When she felt the dampness of her sheets, she'd climb from under the covers, slide into her slippers, crack her bedroom door, and holler upstairs, "The Forrest, come get Fred." Time and time again, she would say, "You're getting too old to be sleeping with me," and asked, "What will your friends say when you're in college?" I simply replied, "I won't tell them." To 575, the foundation that raised the lazy, inexperienced junior deacon, pro wrestling, underage driving, frightened football playing, cabbage head looking, bedwetting young blood into a messenger destined to spread love and light. Ashe. And the last poem I will do is for my friend, Shawn Lang. And this poem was originally for my brother in a new manuscript that I'm editing actually, and this was the second to last poem. And I was editing it, my brother in mind, and I had heard the news about Shawn, and then while I was editing, she just came to me, so I revised it for her. It's called Frog Hollow for the Frog Hollow section of Hartford. Frog Hollow, a villanelle for HIV/AIDS advocate Shawn Lang. A villanelle repeats lines, so you'll hear repetition. Shawn didn't fight for Frog Hollow, for its historic sidewalks slithering below the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, beneath a tattered window where niños burrow rocks in its spine, evoking a shattered confession. Shawn didn't fight for Frog Hollow, for its desert bodegas on the corner of hillside, extinct like amphibians that summon mates below the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, soothing orphaned niñas underneath the quilt of McCook's gateway, praying. Shawn didn't fight for Frog Hollow to follow the Reverend's footsteps, but to step in unison alongside hermanos like my brother below the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, below the summit of an Ivy League rainbow, tying a red ribbon on the corner of Trinity, where colored kin unravel the rumors that Shawn didn't fight for Frog Hollow below the summit of an Ivy League rainbow. And with that being said, I will introduce the next poet for the evening, who has been a very close, good friend of mine for about 2 decades, 20 years and so forth. Phenomenal writer, phenomenal comrade and colleague, Miss Summer Tate.
Thank you, Frederick. Wonderful, wonderful poems. Has it been that long, really, 2 decades? Well, when we say it like that. Welcome, everyone. I'm so happy to be here and sharing with you. Today, I'm going to be sharing a few different pieces. The first piece I'm sharing is a dedication to my cousin. She died in 2009 of complications from AIDS. My mother adopted her 2 children who were raised as my little sisters. And this poem is for their mother. It's called Dedicated to Venetta, daughter of Coletta and mother of Pavon and Adia. I didn't really know you. I was a teenager when I helped to raise your children. You left before us. You left before your children could know you. You were not much older than me, my mother's cousin, and I was too young to understand how choices mark our futures with invisible scars, denting us as we bump into each other's destinies in this amusement park of life. I remember you as beautiful, caramel skin, round lips, and your signature gap between your teeth when you smiled. I remember you smiled all the time when you visited with your children, disregarding the letters AIDS that were nailed onto the body of your future, if a future could be fathomed in the 90s. I thought if the drugs didn't take you, the sickness would. I saw your life as a warning while I ran the streets, lost, forgetting to protect my future from hands that carry invisible maladies, ready to press death against our need to live and be loved. So that's my first piece. You know, it's interesting when I was asked to write and perform here. I didn't, you know, I hadn't really thought about Venetta for a very long time. And this really inspired me to write all of the pieces that I'm performing today. I wrote within the last couple of weeks. The inspiration of it and just the thought of how we live. I met with Adam and visited the museum to see the 2 exhibits. So the next 2 pieces that I'll be reading are ekphrastic pieces. So they are written from the art pieces that I witnessed at the Wadsworth. The first piece is inspired by the artwork of Felix Gonzalez Torres, titled Perfect Lovers. This is a haiku. Perfect lovers. Even death doesn't stop the minute hand from stroking past the hour hand's heart. Haikus are short and sweet. The next piece for Felix is titled Clocking Our Time. None of us can count down when we are going to leave this time behind. Seconds go and we remain spinning around the dial, loving and being loved, grasping for minutes to feel life brush by our cheeks like a breeze at midnight, romanced by dark clouds and moonlight. The hours go and never come back, and the memories settle into us like familiar faces passing on a train, whistling for its departure again and again. None of us can count down how we will leave the stage. Plans are laid, and those who know us remember us as we once were. Frozen snapshots as our batteries wear down and bodies stop, tattooed by time. And the last is another haiku for Felix, titled Felix. Felix, in your perfection, you ticked just in time for Ross. to meet you in life. That's it, there we go. I found his artwork compelling. And you have to visit if you have not visited the Wadsworth to see his art. It's so simple as 2 clocks, but it's not that simple, right? Just like life is not that simple. So please check it out. Last piece. I visited with the Rose Freed Nephews piece. Beautiful, beautiful artwork by Alice Neal. I believe it's on the 2nd floor in the museum. So this is inspired by Jacob Jacoby's film and Alice Neal's portrait. 1. It was 1963. At 18, Roger sat for a portrait. Alice called him a juvenile delinquent, oil on canvas from the nephew pile. He didn't know that AIDS would sit like an invisible vampire in the darkest part of his cells, sucking his life free from the frame. He lived in the light just as his portrait shines on a blue wall of the Wadsworth. So blue, you must step in to tell if his eyes see you too. As his soul swims inside the paint, brushstrokes illuminate the smile in his eyes. The painter knew he'd be sitting, waiting for his story to be told through his still face, snarled lip smile. What will our lives be drawn to be? Alice winks under his seat. I see her see you, Roger, as a face naive with youth, not knowing how something unseen posed on your future to paint you forever gone. 2. Roger captured the virus frame by frame, mimicking how it would ravage a body in an experiment of colored flashes, speckled lights danced across the film, and in the blood of life before the dark, and all else finished. The bathtub was filled with negatives, bathing art as life plays like the movies. We live as well as we die. We are just bones in the background blowing kisses to the audience. Bow to the camera, catching your glow like cells dying in a body ill with dots of color. Everyone is covered in dyes. Discoloration pulling the film from black to blue, sideways and upside down, twisting our lives out of the big screen. So those are my pieces, especially those dedicated to my cousin and to the wonderful artwork right now on display at the Wadsworth. So introducing Rhonda.
Let me just say that before we introduce the Rhonda, who is the former New London Poet Laureate. She was the inaugural New London Poet Laureate, as I am the inaugural Hartford Poet Laureate. But I just believe that we just heard from the second Hartford Poet Laureate just now. I'm putting it out there. Yes. Okay. Yeah. So Rhonda, I've known Rhonda for about 18 years. I think we met like 2003 or so forth. And when I was asked to be a part of this project with the Wadsworth and was asked to invite other artists to be a part of it, I automatically thought about people that are really just closest to me, as not only in artistry, right, but in friendship and so forth, in fellowship. And these two have been, we've been in fellowship for many years. And so I remember in New London, I would come down there and Rhonda would put events on, whatever. And she's like, no, you're getting paid. You're gonna get paid and so forth. And I was just an advocate for artistry. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, my wonderful friend, Rhonda Ward.
Thank you, my brother from another mother. Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. First of all, many thanks to the Wadsworth for bringing this event, to my brother from another mother for the invitation. When he calls, I cannot say no. I never say no. And so here I am. I have not been touched by the AIDS epidemic. And so I thought, what could I bring to this conversation? And the one thing that I do know is that in the end, it's about people, the people we love, the love we share, the experiences we have. So I am going to share poems about people I love, have loved, and have lost. This first poem, I grew up in Dayton, Ohio, grew up across the street from the home of the poet Paul Laurence Dunbar. So poetry comes very natural for me. I started reciting his poems at the age of 8, 3rd grade, and doing those in school. And well, this is about growing up. As Mr. Knowles on his street, this is about growing up at 218 North Summit Street. This is called Legacy. Now and then the phone will ring and it will be someone from my youth. The voice of a favorite cousin stretched across many miles, sounding exactly as she always has, that trained concentration of one who stutters, the slight hesitations, the drawn out syllables, the occasional lapse into a stammer. When asked, she says my aunt is well for her age, but she forgets. I remember the last time I saw my aunt, leaning on her cane, skin smooth as river rock, mahogany brown, gray hair braided into 2 plaits and stretched atop her head, held in place with black bobby pins. She called to say James Lee has died, and did I know Aunt Mary, who had 4 crippled children and went blind after Uncle Benny died last year? I did not. We wander back a while, reminding and remembering. Me under the streetlight outside our front yard, face buried in the crook of my arm, held close to the telephone pole as I closed my eyes and sang the words, last night, night before, 24 robbers at my door. I got up to let them in, hit them in the head with a rolling pin, then counted up to 10 while they ran and hid, visiting the graves of grandparents I never knew, placing blush pink peonies my father grew and cut for the occasion into mason jars, saying nothing, simply staring at the way our lives come down to a concrete slab. This next poem is for my father. This poem was written after he passed. My father was the greatest man on earth as far as I'm concerned. He was a member of the PTA. He was a good father. He worked all the carnivals. He grew me a garden and picked me up at the age of 4. And I can't say enough amazing things about him. This is called The House at 218 North Summit Street Has Fallen. For my father. The house at 218 North Summit Street has fallen. Where once a foundation stood, a solid rock in times of storm. Where once the floors held up for countless teens grinding to slow tunes in blue-hued rooms, or infants becoming toddlers through the wonder of navigation on tiny knees. Where once was the door where charity knocked with such confidence one expected to greet opportunity, where once the kitchen did double duty as beauty parlor on Sunday mornings when hair was fried before bacon, where once the walls separating the rooms gave up their secrets to prying ears pressed hard against them, where once a family dwelt. A hole so deep one might delve a hand into the earth and bring back the Orient's finest silk, and emptiness so complete, even the ghosts have fled. I think another part of, what we miss, what we appreciate about the relationships that we have is, love, being in love, and romantic love. And I thought, when we think about HIV/AIDS, so many people lost so many loves over so much time. And I thought I'd bring a couple of love poems to this conversation. This first is called Remnants of the Other Evening. A nearly empty bottle of red wine. You were worried sediment had settled at the bottom. 3 or 4 dog-eared books of poems scattered across the cocktail table. Cigarette butts smashed into tiny V's and a roach in the ashtray. You read The Apple Cake, as comfortable in your nudity as in your ability to speak English. I wore my nakedness beneath a veil of self-consciousness. Earlier, you wrote of complications, later confessed that you are prone to falling in love. I would prefer a warm slice of apple cake on Sundays when you have settled into the arc of my rib cage, when the world has drifted out of thought and serious complications wait just outside these walls. I fell in love with a painter. He was way older than me. It was never going to be, but we can't help things, right? So this is for Antonio Sedano. It's called As Opposed to the Big Picture. When she thinks of him, she thinks of how their tongues interpret tastes so differently. Her Southern-rooted Midwest, his Madrid, his Spanish blend, her Ohio, of how his R's roll from his tongue while hers whisper up from the back of her throat. He slips in and out of language as easily as putting on or taking off a suit coat, when the best that she can do is see and know. When she sees him, the world becomes piñata, paella, salsa. And always there is that last glance back when their smiles are question marks rather than commas. And for the last 5 minutes, I'm going to do a couple of poems for people I'm appreciating in this moment. This first poem is for a friend of mine who suffers from, sickle cell disease. And a lot of his life is pain, but he is living life to the fullest. He's an amazing father. And this poem was just written as I saw him walking up the street, a man I appreciate, being a father, something a lot of Black men don't get enough credit for, being good fathers and mentors. This is called I See You. It's for Sarah Nolan Lohman. I see you, brother, walking up State Street. pushing the spitting image of yourself in a little navy stroller. Your runny-nosed protege has no care past the inner workings of a ball that jingles when thrown across a room with the crooked force of a toddler, elbow slightly inward in that awkward way a child is prone to throw. I see you, brother, walking up State Street, thick black locks falling down your broad back, camera strap draped around your neck, lens bag flung over your shoulder. I see you in the studio photographing contemporary young Black men and women, misunderstood, misrepresented. You are newsworthy, but not news. You are not stealing, shooting, or shooting up. You are not featured in the papers, but I see you suffering from the Black man's disease of being a Black man in America. And yet, I look upon the smoothness of your ebony complexion. I see the dark, fertile soil of Africa. I look into the abundance of your clear brown eyes. I see the sun shimmering on the placid plain of the Nile. I look at the fluent hands which nurture a son. I see a creator molding a new Black man. I see you, brother, walking up State Street and wonder why America cannot see you as I see you. And my final poem is for my friend that I lost last year at the worst time. We met freshman year in college. She was my oldest and dearest friend. This is not titled, but for Jackie Marie Esther Calhoun. When I look back over all these years, the laughter, the tears, the hiding me out from prying eyes, the opening up of all our lives, long drives for short visits, an exquisite friendship marked by time. You said I sound like a white girl when we met. I'll never forget how intrigued and perplexed I felt, not wanting to melt into the floor, more so wanting to know who you were. You were birthday parties and 70s funk, patio gardens and holiday gatherings, the things I'd grown up with and loved but lost. And you had paid life's costs with pain, yet never did complain. A warrior. You were daughter, sister, friend, mother, lover of people, your people, Black people. You were a comfort in the roughest storm, a soft, warm blanket to cover the hurts life must surely bring upon us, a person of trust whose truths were just and fair. You cared. Today, I think of you with sorrow's tears, but by and by will cry from joy of knowing you and we were all together here. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Rhonda. I tell her all the time, I love it when she reads. Her voice is so melodic, it's very soothing.
Frederick-Douglass, Summer, Rhonda, thank you so much for sharing your really powerful work with us tonight. This was an even more amazing tribute than we ever could have asked for. I know all of us are going to leave tonight really thinking about your words. Thank you all that joined us this evening too. It was really wonderful to have you in the audience and to be able to engage so directly with our artists. If you could all join me in just one more time thanking our guests this evening.